Welcome back to Autopolis for day 2 of racing action in Ferrari Challenge Japan. And it is going to be a markedly different race. We have dry conditions here today in the Japanese hills. And that means that the complexion of this race might be somewhat different than what came before. As you can see, cars are ready to go on the grid already. There is a different cast of characters at the front of the order, on the front row of the grid. Yes, yesterday's winner, Sotomuto, is back on the front row of the grid. This time, though, he's joined by Tosai Moriyama on the front of the grid. Moriyama, the 22-year-old young professional driver, taking over that Rosso Scuderia entry from the usual driver of the number 4, Nobuhiro Imada. Imada is on his way to Europe to partake in one of the best Ferrari events on the globe, that being, of course, the legendary Ferrari Cavalcade. So Imada is making sure he can get there for that. As you can see, a full quota of cars ready to go racing again here at Autopolis, a circuit that delivers many a technical challenge and always offers up interesting racing. Lots of sharp opportunities under braking to make a move up the field. But look at that circuit map now. The first corner, a great overtaking opportunity. Lots of room for a dive bomb there, should you wish to try and make it work. Turn 1, turn 3, turn 11, that off-camber hairpin, the leading opportunities. But there's also lots of room for error across the circuit as well. One false move, well, maybe you see someone make up or lose 2 or 3 positions in one fell swoop. We saw the 488 Challenge Evo there at the back of the field. That is a new addition for this weekend. We didn't have any 488s with us at the season opening round at Suzuka, but the 488 still eligible for Ferrari Challenge Japan despite the arrival of the new and improved Ferrari 296, and the 488 class is here this weekend with 3 entries to its name. Yesterday it was a victory in that class for Yusuke Yamaki. Yesterday as well in Copa Shell Am, it was Norikazu Shibata who just about held on to victory despite pressure from Ryotaro Saito. Saito had an error towards the end of the race on the very final lap, having a spin, and that promoted Yuliang Chen to second in class. In Copa Shell yesterday, it was Phil Kim who took the race victory. Yasutaka Shirasaki 4th overall, and first among those in Trofeo Pirelli Am, and it was Sota Muto who won in the number 88 M Auto Italia car at the front of the field. That was another victory for Muto's M Auto Italia team. Of course, they had Miki Koyama at the wheel in Suzuka. She swept the weekend, 2 wins in 2 races. And Sotomuto, the esports star, the driver who is really doing his bit to bridge that virtual divide, he is going to be trying to make it 2 from 2 for himself here at Autopolis. But I fancy he's got his work cut out for him there, because you see alongside on the front row, on pole as a matter of fact, is the number 4 car, Nobuhiro Imada's machine, now in the hands of Tosai Moriyama. Moriyama, if you're unfamiliar with the name, a champion in Super Taikyu in 2023 in the TCR class, and has done some running recently, also deputizing actually for Nobuhiro Imada in Super Formula Lights. Race start will come in just a few moments, because we are rolling and running now on the formation lap. It will be our standard 2x2 formation rolling start this time around. Of course, if you were joining us yesterday, you'll know that it was a single file start to the race beginning under safety car, so in actuality we only got about 23 minutes of proper racing, but it was very clean in the conditions. Moriyama then on pole, Muto in second, Akihiro Suzuki in third, Tadao Uematsu in fourth, Isosaki and Shirasaki on row 3, Coldmax and Hiwatashi on row 4, Phil Kim and Masaru Yaneda round out the top 10 ahead of Shibata and Saito, Yuliang Chen in 13th, Komatsu 14th, Alex Fox 15th, Katsumata in 16th place, Kurakawa, Fukui, Katayama, John Leo, Yusuke Yamaki and Kane Kim. Your order as you saw there on the bottom of screen. So all of the drivers in the Copa Shell Am category outside the top 10 in this race, but you can always expect those Copa Shell drivers to really come into their own, the Shell Am drivers, as they get more mileage in around the circuit. A lot of those drivers in their earliest travails in motorsport. You can see there the garage watching on. I believe that was Yuliang Chen, his garage in the 193 crew, the Rossa Scuderia car, because Yuda Yoshida watching on there, the reigning two-time Ferrari Challenge Japan champion, this year taking it from a different perspective, coaching instead of driving. Although something tells me that Yudai might well end up on his back on his wagon, as it were, back on the horse and racing before too long. So then the cars rolling down what is known as the roller coaster straight. That is an apropos name for some of the sections of this circuit, particularly that last incline that the front runners are now making their way through. One of those sections where if you miss one apex, your corner speed, your ability to retain momentum is often squandered for the next 3 or 4 turns previous. So not optimal by any means to get it wrong through this section. And we're not 2x2 yet. We are now going 2x2 because the race is about to begin. So 2x2 formation. And here we go. Who's going to win the drag race on that front row of the grid? Will it be the driver who's hopped in the car fresh for today? Or will it be yesterday's race winner, Moriyama, going up against the 88 of Sotamuto? And it is Tosai Moriyama with the inside line into the first corner. He's a bit gentle on the brakes, though. That's allowing Suto to go all around the outside. Sotamuto is still side by side with Moriyama as they head down towards turn 3. They've still not sorted out the dispute. Looks like there was an issue there further back in the field as well, as we're side by side still for the lead. In third place, it looks like Akihiro Suzuki has got the better of that situation. Uematsu behind him in 4th position. First few corners complete then, and Moriyama has won the exchange at the front of the field. The 19 car it was in dramas. Yasutaka Shirasaki. That's a huge shame for the driver who came out on top in the Pirelli Am category, winning that class yesterday, 4th overall. And today, unfortunately, his race has ended on lap number 1. As we see, the safety car has been deployed, so the race is almost immediately neutralized. Looked like we got a good start there from Phil Kim. Phil Kim is all the way up in 4th position, and actually Suzuki has dropped down to 5th. I didn't quite see how that happened, but he's ended up behind Uematsu and Phil Kim. So Suzuki down in 5th place. The Copa Shell leader, Phil Kim, ahead of Motohiko Isozaki, who now has the Trofeo Pirelli AM lead. If you're unfamiliar with how the class structure works here, the red banners, red windscreen banners, denotes Trofeo Pirelli. That's also the red and white number on the timing tower on the side of your screen. The white banners and the white numbers on the timing tower indicate a Trofeo Pirelli AM driver. Those are our top 2 categories. Those are intended for our very fastest drivers. Copa Shell is for drivers who are maybe a couple of seasons in, starting to really find their footing in motor racing, or indeed just very, very promising rookies. And then a majority of your newcomers to racing will find themselves slotted into the Copa Shell AM category. In a way, it's sort of like a platinum, gold, silver, bronze situation in other forms of GT and sports car racing. So the Copa Shell cars denoted by those yellow numbers on the side of your screen, the black and white numbers denoting the Shell AMs, and then the blues, which are new for this weekend. That's the 488 Challenge Evo machinery. Of course, the 488 Challenge Evo, the car of Ferrari Challenge until the end of last year, but we have welcomed in the Ferrari 296 Challenge for 2025. It is an exciting piece of equipment. We get a replay of the race start. Moriyama on the inside. He didn't get a bad launch by any means. He had a nose ahead by the time they ran towards the first corner. However, it was the case that just holding on very bravely around the outside was Sotomuto in that 88 car from M-Auto Italia. And it was a good launch as well from Suzuki in the number 17. Ooh, and there was another car that came off towards the rear of the field. That's the 1-2-3 car that had a moment. And then you see Shirasaki there, I think. Not sure quite whom he looped himself around, but someone's front end was, I think, involved in Shirasaki's moment. But the 1-2-3 we also saw spinning there, Yoshifumi Komatsu, who was on a partial schedule with us last year in the Ferrari Challenge Japan Series. Came 9th among the Copa Shell AM runners that season, and unfortunately he's going to have to work from the rear of the field. It looked like that car should be able to continue. So Moriyama biding his time. Of course, being safety car conditions, when we do go back to racing, it will be a single file restart, so it will be a little bit of breathing room for Moriyama, but he'll have to nail the management of the restart. He'll do what he can to catch Sotomuto napping, if at all possible. Uematsu lurking there in 3rd position. Uematsu, the driver who came into this weekend with the strongest platform underneath him, if you will. Of course, Koyama came in with the points lead, but since she was absent this weekend, Uematsu was kind of considered to be the de facto leader of the championship. In there comes, I believe that's the 1-2-3 car again. Yes, it is. And demonstrating there the pit entrance at Autopolis, which is a little bit of a twisty chicane. It's been known to catch people out when competitive pit stops are a factor, but not here in Ferrari Challenge Japan. No pit stops unless something has gone awry, and unfortunately Komatsu deciding to withdraw. Recovery ongoing there on the 19 car as well, so the Autopolis marshals doing a good job of efficiently clearing the car of Yasutaka Shirazaki, who was last year's Copa Shell champion, of course. Was second in Copa Shell back in 2023 as well. Every year that he's run in Ferrari Challenge Japan, he has been a competitive factor. That's good to see. Komatsu is going to rejoin the field and get back into the racing action. So they've given the car a little bit of a once-over. They've gone, that looks okay to us, and Komatsu doesn't need to be asked twice. Back out onto the circuit he goes then. See them trying to get some heat into the tyres, heat into the brakes as well. The brake system on this Ferrari 296 Challenger, very, very potent indeed. CCM R Plus brake discs. CCM are designed to improve both durability and conductivity in terms of how it's produced. Longer carbon fibers used in the construction of the brake disc. And it's also operated through brake-by-wire as well. I've heard consistently it's a different world when you have to use your left pedal in terms of getting the car stopped. It's a lot more potent than the 488 Challenge Evo that came before. I've had drivers say it's impressive, but it took me some getting used to just how near instantaneous the slowing down actually was. And of course that slowing down is also aided by the increased downforce of the 296 Challenge car. At 250 kilometers an hour we're making 870 kilos of downforce, which is a really, really high level if you consider that 15 years ago, even less than that, the Ferrari 458s, when they came onto the scene in 2011, they were still running without a splitter, without a rear wing. And of course that was later changed with an Evo kit, but just how far the Ferrari Challenge concept has come recently and how potent the cars of today are in the global Ferrari Challenge landscape, it is a very impressive thing to see. And these cars are certainly some of the most potent Ferrari V6 GT cars there have ever been, along with, of course, the sister car, the GT3. You can see there the last of the debris being swept away, the marshals doing their due diligence, but I suspect we'll get a bulletin that the safety car will be in this time by. So we'll wait and see on that front. But it does seem that we are almost at the end of that clear-up operation. Lots of weaving going on, but Motohiko Isosaki there in 6th position, not deciding to partake. He's laser focused on getting back underway. Isosaki, who was a regular in All Japan Formula 3 back in the 2000s, had the honor of competing in the 50th edition of the Macau Grand Prix in a Formula Renault car back in the day. One time he shared the garage with a very, very well-known Japanese Ferrari alumnus, and that being Kamui Kobayashi. So Isosaki has known many a great pro and raced alongside many a great pro over the years, and since 2022 he's been very much enjoying his time in Ferrari Challenge Japan. The winner of the World Final in Copa Shell Am in the 2023 Finale Mondiale as well. He's racing travails continue to cross continents and win him a great number of trophies. So the safety car is due in this lap, I'm being told, so that's roughly what we anticipated. For Moriyama, it now becomes a matter of getting any last smidge of heat that he can into those Pirelli P0s underneath him. Of course, getting heat into a slick, a little bit more difficult in some instances than the wets. Yesterday, of course, in the difficult conditions that we had, we did have the opportunity to see the Pirelli wets in action. The wet tyres from Pirelli for this year have been really lauded for their performance level. And now we are back on the slicks, a little more grip underneath them. What's going to happen, though, in the rearview mirror of Moriyama? Sotomuto will be watching and waiting for that car ahead of him to take off, but the 1-2-5 car has come to a halt. Hiroyuki Katayama, he's by an gap in the fence, by an exit road, so that might be useful. We've bolted. Moriyama has hit the pedal. Moriyama heading around, but the safety car, I think, is still parked there on the main straight, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, I think we're going to have one more lap under safety car. We will, yes. So safety car back out, unfortunately, because the 1-2-5 has come to a halt. Cornes Osaka's Hiroyuki Katayama. So then the race remaining under safety car observation for the time being. The drivers having to exercise some patience. As are those eagerly watching on from the boxes. Of course, everyone has great technicians and knowledgeable individuals at their disposal in Ferrari uniforms, but they'll also have friends and family along cheering them on here. Of course, you see the 296 GTB, the road-going equivalent to the challenge car ahead of the pack. Of course, there is a new 296 road car on the block, announced recently, the 296 Speciale. That is going to be a very compelling vehicle for the lucky few that end up driving them, with some inspiration taken from the 296 Challenge and GT3 projects, a more track-focused version, of course, of the 296 GTB. Yeah, the Challenge car, no hybrid system on this, 700 horsepower from the racing version of the 296 GTB motor in the Challenge car, so dehybridized, but the turbos and of course many other elements are rather sweetened for extra power, and 700 horsepower is certainly an impressive figure, puts it well above the 488 Challenge Evo that we had before, which was pushing out around 670 horsepower. 296 Challenge, certainly a very potent car. We welcomed it onto these shores, of course, at Suzuka on the Japanese Grand Prix weekend with our first events of 2025. The safety car lights are still on. The race will have at least one more lap behind the safety car, therefore. For drivers who lost out in the early stages, and I must say I'm kind of looking directly at the number 17 of Suzuki here. For drivers who did lose out in the early stages, this is going to be so frustrating because they're losing time to try and salvage the race, as it were. One driver who managed to move up quite nicely in the early stages today, was Shibata, our winner from yesterday in Copa Shellam, up into the top 10. Of course, he's capitalized from Shirasaki having to withdraw from the race in the instance of gaining one position, but Shibata in the 181 again showing that he is among the faster drivers across the overall field here in Ferrari Challenge Japan. Was third in last year's Copa Shellam, which was quite a hard-fought title battle in that division of Ferrari Challenge Japan. So he'll be looking to go, well, not one, but two better this year. Going into the restart of this race, he will have Ryotaro Saito behind him in the Copa Shellam order. Masafumi Iwatashi will be between Shibata and Saito, so that could be very useful for him. So, as we can see, with the safety car lights going out and with Moriyama taking control of the field once again, we are going to go back to green flag this time around. 11 minutes left on the clock by the time we are back underway. It's going to be just about 10 minutes plus one lap of racing, so this could be quite the dash for the cash. Now Moriyama, about halfway back up the hill towards the start-finish line, managed to pull the pin a good 3 or 4 corners before the main straight. So let's see if he does the same thing. It makes a lot of sense, of course, to try and build a gap, maybe give Sotomuto some dirty air to work with before he can get onto the main straight. If you leave it late, then maybe he can attack into the first corner, and certainly Moriyama is not leaving it late. Look, he's already pulled the pin. We're already back to racing speeds. Muto Uematsu behind. Phil Kim, I think, lost a few car lengths there in 4th position. And there won't be any overtaking, of course, before they cross the start-finish line, or at least there shouldn't be. And so Suzuki will be going, oh, no, I don't want to lose any more time to the top 3. Of course, being one of the drivers there with the red graphic on his number, he is someone looking for Trofeo Pirelli glory at the very front of the field. They are now back to racing conditions. Moriyama leads Muto and Uematsu. Here's some fighting a little further back, and oh, that was deep on the brakes there from the 102, and thankfully managed to avoid that deep gravel trap on corner exit. Masaharu Katsumata rejoining Ferrari Challenge this year after taking a year off in 2024, and certainly they're a bit ambitious on the brake pedal, looking to move up the order from towards the rear of the Copa Shellam category. Here's your 5th place man, Suzuki in the 17 behind our Copa Shell leader Phil Kim. Now in the wet conditions yesterday, Phil Kim actually set the fastest sector around all 3 checkpoints of the lap. All 3 sectors had Phil Kim with the fastest sector throughout the race. He didn't manage to string that together into the course of one lap, so he didn't have the fastest lap of the race. But Phil Kim certainly has speed. He seems to have really gelled with the 296 Challenge, coming into his second season of racing after debuting with us last year in Ferrari Challenge Japan. Previously ran a 488 Challenge car, 488 Challenge Evo in Ferrari Club Challenge in Asia. Finally decided to compete wheel to wheel last year with the help of his countryman Jay Park. Motohiko Isosaki, meanwhile, under braking there, 6th overall. It's a bit wide of the apex there at the first corner, and he's got to be careful because Cold Max is on his tail. Cold Max, who is always a brave driver, always one to give it his all. Very compelling battle here for my money in Pirelli Am. It's the word I've heard before regarding Cold Max. If it's a situation that requires bravery, if it's a circuit that requires bravery, Cold Max comes into his own. You see there the 488s, the leading car there, Yamaki, the first of the 488s in the class. He just got overtaken by the recovering Komatsu in the 1-2-3. Of course, we saw Komatsu in the pits and having a spin on the very first lap of the race. See Shibata just ahead of Hiwatashi, and critically he's kind of staying with this leading queue, and then you look back 4.2 seconds from Hiwatashi in the red and white car. That is Ryotaro Saito, who runs second in Copa Shell Am. So Shibata, the second from last in that leading queue, he's actually got almost 5 seconds of advantage already within his class, and that is a huge margin for him to hold just after a safety car restart. He is doing very well indeed, as is Moriyama at the front, a 148.8 laid down by the driver of the number 4. I'm sure Nobuhiro Imada is watching on to see what the youngster does with his car today. Imada-san, he's doing a good job with your car, as you can see. Continuing further down the order there among the Copa Shell Am competitors. We've got to move on here. Phil Kim allowing Suzuki through there, I think. I think maybe Phil Kim deciding that's not his fight, seemed to just leave the door open for the driver of the number 17. We get a replay here, and yes, indeed, Phil Kim choosing that outside lane, effectively nodding and allowing him through. So Akihiro Suzuki up a position, and of course the next question is, can he close in on Uematsu? He's just over a second back from the number 16 at the moment, and if he can get by, of course that means a Trofeo Pirelli podium. So can Akihiro Suzuki make it work for Auto Speciale? One of our many Japanese dealer partners running drivers in this series, all drivers representatives of dealerships. And right now it is the driver holding the flag for Rosso Scuderia at the front of the field. Rosso Scuderia, who of course won so often with Yudai Uchida over the last couple of years. They're yet to see a victory this year in Ferrari Challenge Japan within Trofeo Pirelli and within the overall order. And so they'll be keen to see that number 4 car hold on at the front of the field. M-Auto Italia, conversely, want their streak to continue. 3 wins so far this season. Less than 4 minutes left on the clock, and Sotomuto is going to have to find something a little extra here to try and move forward. Of course, Josai Moriyama, a young professional driver, a championship winner here in Japan, and so Sotomuto, who's done some real-life racing, but his background is in esports primarily. The fact that he has taken so well to the 296 Challenge car and is able to keep pace with Moriyama is hugely impressive. Muto, who yesterday looked to be on another level from anyone else out there. Certainly turned a few heads and made a few impressions yesterday. Did Muto in those wet conditions. He's keeping pace with our leader for now. There's your battle for third place, and Akihiro Suzuki is certainly just slightly reeling in the third place car. So Uematsu, I don't think is entirely out of the woods yet. I don't think that podium is safe, as Yuliang Chen has had a moment there. At the penultimate corner, that long sweeping right-hander, he did very well there to get out of the gravel, but Yuliang Chen continues. Unfortunately, that drops him out of what was third in Copa Chelam, so he's going to drop well down the order. He's got a couple of laps to try and make up some places, but I'm not sure he's going to have enough time. Uematsu looks to have a little bit of front damage on his car, so I just wonder if he's struggling for turn in a little bit, if it's a little more than cosmetic. But nonetheless, Akihiro Suzuki has very quickly reeled him in. Suzuki, who has raced at the highest levels of Japanese GT racing for a very long time, has raced a Ferrari previously in Super GT, as has Tadao Uematsu, as a matter of fact, but before it was even called Super GT, such is Uematsu's tenure in the highest levels of motor racing here. Both drivers with a lot of experience to call upon as they continue to fight. Meanwhile, Norikazu Shibata here, the leader in Chelam, is coming under scrutiny from Masafumi Hiwatashi behind him. So Hiwatashi looking to make an overall position. Of course, they're racing in separate classes, but you know how it is with multi-class racing, particularly multi-class racing where everyone's in the same car. Often the dividing lines of the classes mean very little to everyone. There's a car ahead of me, I want past it, is effectively Masafumi Hiwatashi's mentality right now. Clock has hit 0, so we're on the penultimate lap of the race. We have +1 lap at the end of this, so penultimate lap for all parties now. Hiwatashi to the inside line there, trying to get this 9th position for the European version dealer that he is representing here. Hiwatashi, last year's Copa Chelam champion, of course, so ran wheel to wheel with Shibata on a few occasions. So 9th and 10th places still going. Shibata and Hiwatashi scrapping, and then, as we saw briefly on the bottom of screen as well, Uematsu and Suzuki fighting it out for 3rd place as well. But here's our race leader across the line again. The gap between himself and Muto has only extended, so Moriyama in a very, very strong position. And where is 3rd and 4th place? They're a long way back from Muto, but there they are. Uematsu is certainly under pressure It was just over half of a second. It's now just under half a second between them, and it looks like Suzuki got a mighty run out of the last couple of corners as well. One last lap. Uematsu there, I think, just a smidge deep into the first corner, was still turning and braking at the apex. Suzuki will be keeping a watching brief of this situation. He'll be willing on this traffic to get involved, but Kane Kim there just allowing that to continue without his intervention. Uematsu driving through the mirrors here. He's got the high ground, but he needs to make sure he nails the run out of the important corners, and that 100R bend is certainly one of them. They approach this hairpin, and Suzuki is not close enough for a move. That's one of the last obvious overtaking opportunities on the lap. There's still some traffic up ahead, and Uematsu is going to be quite nervous about the moves of the 488 of Yamaki up ahead. While that's going on, here's some fighting further back. They're about to start their final lap. Meanwhile, I think not far back, yes, Moriyama coming around the penultimate corner and the final bend. The number 4 car for Rosso Scuderia is a winner, and Nobuhiro Imada will be very, very proud of today's driver, Tosai Moriyama, the 22-year-old, claiming a victory here in Ferrari Challenge Japan at his first attempt, ahead of Muto in second place. And today, Uematsu will hold on to third. Tadao Uematsu does just hold on, despite Akihiro Suzuki's notable pace there at the end of the race. Phil Kim crosses the line to win in Copa Shell. Here comes the Trofeo Pirelli Am battle there between Isozaki and Coldmax. Isozaki comes out on top. Here's your Copa Shell Am race winner, Shibata, just about holding on up against Hiwatashi for overall position rather than class position. But Shibata taking 9th overall, winning the Copa Shell Am class for good measure. And I think Shibata and Hiwatashi might have had quite a dramatic last lap, because Ryotaro Saito, who finished 11th, made up a good couple of seconds on the final lap of the race. Through for third in class has come Alex Fox. So Fox, the Frenchman, is on the podium this time in Copa Shell Am. That will be very useful for the rest of his season. Yuliang Chen we saw there as well, crossing the line. He, of course, had his spin, but he recovered back to 15th overall and 6th position in the Shell Am category. But it's going to be celebrations for Tosai Moriyama. And here's that battle we were seeing a few moments ago. Komatsu and Kurakawa just crossing the line, and it is the recovering driver of that number 1, 2, 3, Yoshifumi Komatsu, who comes out on top of their little scrap. Komatsu, of course, having a little issue on the first lap, but managing to run a positive race from there. Moriyama being beckoned to slow down by the marshals. Of course, uniquely here at Autopolis, the drivers pull up on the opposite side of the main straight from the pit wall, because the podium is to drivers' right. Moriyama, I think, will be one very, very happy individual after that race. Took the opportunity to run a race here with both hands. Unfortunately, he's having his hardest battle of the day with the window net, but he'll get that sorted and hop out of the car to celebrate. Out comes our winner, Moriyama celebrating a win. He had a very positive showing in Super Formula Lights at Suzuka a few weeks ago as well. I think all 3 races he finished well within the top 10, so proving that he is developing more and more as a racing driver. Certainly someone who's looking to expand his portfolio and his results in the ever fruitful Japanese motorsport ecosystem. Motohiko Isosaki, our Trofeo Pirelli AM winner, climbs out of the car after what I'm sure was a pretty intense race, because at no point was he more than a second clear of Cold Max. Celebrations again down at the 181 camp as well. That's celebrating Norikazu Shibata's win in Copa Shell-Am, and you saw his team there with the Noric merchandise on, celebrating their man's victory. Masafumi Iwatashi, who of course has plenty to celebrate as well. He was celebrating P1 there, and that's because I think there was an issue somewhere for Phil Kim, potentially. Of course, we saw him allowing people by at one point, which is rather uncharacteristic, but the 107 car was on for victory at one point in Copa Shell. In fact, I thought he did cross the line to win in Copa Shell. He did, so whether there's been a bulletin handed down or something like that, I'm not sure, but all the same. There's Yusuke Yamaki, who won out in the 488 class. Celebrating there with his Pirelli P0 winner's cap. There is his 222 Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo. As you can see, the drivers making their way up, and a nice little moment there at the front of the grid as Yamaki, I think, there was greeted by his young son. Lots, of course, of family support for our drivers here in Ferrari Challenge Japan. And every now and then you will see it, that some of those bystanders, wives, husbands, brothers, mothers, whoever they are, they'll end up catching the bug too. And then when you have Club Challenge, for example, also competing or also on the bill that weekend, which is kind of non-competitive open track time, you'll start to see relatives of the Ferrari Challenge Japan or Ferrari Challenge Europe or Ferrari Challenge UK, Ferrari Challenge Australasia, North America, whichever series it is, you'll start to see the relatives having a go too, because they're also catching the bug by being in the paddock. You see there the damage there on Uematsu's car. Some war wounds at the front for the number 16. Drivers slowly filing their way towards the podium, of course wanting to lap up the celebrations with their crew, with their supporters down there on the grid. And what a sight that is to see those 296 Challenge and 488 Challenge Evo machines parked up in 3 wide on the main straight. Only a matter of hours before the Indianapolis 500 as well. How apropos. Of course, I'm sure that the hospitality unit this evening will be something of a motorsport cinema, with Ferrari Challenge Europe taking place in Hockenheim, with, of course, Charles Leclerc on the front row of the grid for Ferrari in the Monaco Grand Prix as well. It's a big day of racing here globally in the motorsport community. And certainly Ferrari Challenge Japan has put on a show for fans and those of you joining us live, as it so often does. Of course, plenty of racing still to look forward to this season in Ferrari Challenge Japan. Some familiar destinations coming up in the calendar. We've got 2 visits in a row to Fuji on the 21st and 22nd of June, then the 12th and 13th of July, before the 9th and 10th of August, wrapping up the 2025 calendar at Okayama. But then, of course, from that relatively early conclusion to the season in August, there will be the addition of Finale Mondiali, one of the great festivals of all things Ferrari. And this year that will take place at Mugello, so another leading Italian circuit, of course, hosting that celebration, not just a Ferrari Challenge, but you always see demonstration runs from victorious Ferrari teams from across sports car racing and GT racing, and always a heavy Formula One presence as well, of course, with the F1 Clienti program and their incredible history-making chassis out in full force. And you see the winning car, nary a scratch on it, so Nobuhiro Imada will be happy with that. Not only did his car win the race, but his car is just as fresh as it was when he set off for the Ferrari cavalcade last night. Josai Moriyama will be up on the podium in a couple of minutes, along with his closest adversary in that race, the number 88 car of Sotamuto. There's Motohiko Isasaki's car. That distinctive livery has been carried over, of course, from the 488 Challenge Evo. You can scarcely miss that number 55. That's always one of my favourite things about the Ferrari Challenge grid on a broader level, is just the sheer colourfulness of the grid. The owners are, I don't know about encouraged, but certainly permitted to go wild with the livery. Express yourself with your car. So then Uematsu to the third step of the podium there after holding off Suzuki. Sotamuto to the second step. But your winner, Tosai Moriyama, to the top step. Will Sotomuto receiving his trophy and the winning trophy going to Tosai Moriyama. I believe that is again Takashi Kaneko presenting the trophies, the CEO of the Autopolis International Circuit, or International Racing Course, I should say. Delivering the team's trophy as well, of course, to Rosso Scuderia for the race-winning result here in Trofeo Pirelli. In addition, the Pirelli Award going to our winning driver. Next step will be trophies down, bottles up, and champagne celebration. So they pose for the pictures, commemorating and ensuring that memory lives with the pictures. And now I think will come the chance to spray the champagne. A little shot here at redemption for Sotomuto. He struggled with the champagne yesterday. So here we go, the champagne spray. Soto is again having to fight the bottle a little bit. Have we got it? Yes, good job, Soto. Double podium weekend for him, a P1 and a P2. I'm sure he will be very happy with that result. Of course, the celebrations will continue here. The 5 classes of Ferrari Challenge Japan all receiving their podiums and celebrations. The next champagne bottles and the next trophies being readied. But it's safe to say that coming out of Autopolis, even those who are not on the podium will have something to celebrate. A really good weekend of racing from all parties as Cold Max makes his way onto the podium. Oh dear, not sure quite what happened there, but Cold Max having some fun, and Motohiko Isesaki comes to the top step of the Pirelli AM podium. These guys will continue to celebrate after what has been a fabulous weekend in Ferrari Challenge Japan. Fuji comes next in June on the 21st and 22nd. And that, I'm sure, will be another thrilling weekend in these 296 Challenge cars in Ferrari Challenge Japan. A little bit of confusion and prodding and prying and joking going on here among everybody as the presentations continue on. Motohiko Isesaki receiving his Trofeo Pirelli AM winner trophy. And that's, of course, being the corner's Shiba representative. receiving his trophy there as well for winning the Coppa Dealer element of this weekend. I think even with the win for Rossa Scuderia overall in this race, my understanding is that it probably is still Moto Italia leading in the Coppa Dealer standings. Isozaki and his trophies. Time for the pictures, and then for a champagne spray between Isozaki and Cold Max. Of course, we sadly didn't see the number 19 car in Trofeo Pirelli Am, Yasutaro Shirosaki, get to the flag. He did, however, get out of the car. He was A-OK, but sadly, of course, not classified in the race, not on the podium for today, but he'll be looking to rack up more wins next time out within Trofeo Pirelli Am. And Motohiko making sure to give himself some distance against Cold Max's always very strong aim with the champagne bottle. Great to see that camaraderie. Of course, these two really hammer and tong all race. Cold Max never quite managed to line up an opportunity to overtake Isozaki, but they were right on it throughout the race distance. Here are your results then. Tosai Moriyama winning from Muto, from Suzuki in third, Isozaki fourth, Cold Max fifth. Of course, Shibata winning Shell Am there in sixth position. Further down the field there, you see some of the other results as well. Yosuke Yamake, of course, very important to acknowledge him as the 488 class winner as well. Of course, it will be the Coppa Shell presentation up next. Now, Phil Kim did drop from his actual finishing position across the line. I think Phil Kim may have had a penalty of some description because he dropped down to 10th in the final classification. So he will be on the second step of the podium. Of course, we saw Masafumi Iwatashi for European version celebrating down there. And that will be because he got that bulletin well before me. And important that he did so, of course, because he's the one that needs to know. Masaru Yoneda to the third step of the podium. There's Phil Kim on the second step, and here comes a man who was very happy down by his car. I'm sure he's still buzzing. Masafumi Iwatashi. Yes, indeed, that is a happy man. The Coppa Shell Am champion from last year on the top step in Coppa Shell, bumping up a division for this season and clearly still just as competitive. See the presentations again. Phil Kim there receiving his second place trophy, while Masafumi Iwatashi holds his aloft. Another Coppa Shell victory as well for European version. I get the feeling the European version garage is going to be a fun place to be after this race. We seem to be in the celebratory mood. Again, they pose for the pictures, and again, Iwatashi and everyone else at European version seems to genuinely be buzzing. I'm sure their festivities will be as fun as they are long this evening. Here comes the champagne spray. And well, no one could beat Iwatashi to the flag, but they beat him to the champagne. I say that, of course, Philkin did beat him to the flag, but ultimately classified second. And the champagne does sting the eye a little bit. There's a reason that so many people dash rather than partake. Next up, of course, will be the Copa Shell AM podium, and I must say a word to Norikazu Shibata's performance. Of course, we saw him fighting with the Copa Shell winner Masafumi Iwatashi for what eventually became 6th overall, and again, verging on top 5 results as a Copa Shell AM driver, especially this early in the season, is really impressive stuff. Shibata, who scored 9 top 5s in the class across 10 races last year, continues to develop and continues to become a force to be reckoned with in the Copa Shell AM proceedings. Masaharu Katsumata we see there on the 3rd step of the podium. Second step should be Alex Fox, the Frenchman. There he is. Copa Shell AM champion back in 2020 in Ferrari Challenge Europe. He's back with us in Ferrari Challenge for the first time since 2022 this year in Challenge Japan. There is Norikazu Shibata. He is representative from Cornez Osaka, joining the podium. Third place trophy there to Masaharu Katsumata for Nicole Competizioni. Ryotaro Saito has been listed as the winner there, which doesn't gel with the results we had previously. He was set to be second in class, Ryotaro Saito, so I suspect Norikazu Shibata has been penalised because it was Shibata who won the class provisionally, and then Ryotaro Saito second in class and 8th overall. So I think there's been a switch since that results graphic that we saw a few minutes ago. Because yes, that is Saito, of course, on the top step. So we'll have to keep an eye on the Ferrari Challenge Japan section of Ferrari.com, which always delivers great post-race reporting. We'll no doubt learn a little bit more about what's happened there with Norikazu Shibata, but Ryotaro Saito then inheriting a victory, and after fighting so hard to try and win yesterday and ending up in a spin, he certainly will take the celebration with both hands. Saito there having to, yes, okay, so we have some updated results which will help us out there a little bit. Yes, indeed, there has been a change to the order, so Saito 7th ultimately, and as you can see, Shibata has been dropped down the field to 15th, so he had a penalty of some description because he was dropped well down the order. I think the judgment's still rolling in here from race control, and so the podium shifting at the last minute from the information that I had in front of me. So of course the race control doing their due diligence, going through every incident they can as fast as they can. We should have the 488 podium up next. Yes, we do. Kane Kim set to second step there, and indeed Yusuke Yamaki climbs to the top. His very distinctive purple race suit. Very well prepared car as well. It's a good setup down there at Grand Testa Nagano. His dealership representative is there as well with him. Yusuke Yamaki. Very successful weekend here in the 488 class for the older V8 powered Ferrari Challenge machine, which may well go down as the last of the V8 powered cars after over 30 years of V8 power in Ferrari Challenge. Of course, the 296 powered by that incredible 2.9 litre unit. The V6. But great to see the 488 still out there as well, and drivers still utilising them for great racing on the Ferrari Challenge Japan grid. So for one last time here at Autopolis, the trophies are down and the celebrations will begin. A thorough shake and the bubbly flies here at Autopolis. Again, a reminder that Ferrari Challenge Japan is next due to race on the 21st and 22nd of June at Fuji, part of a double header that will conclude on the 12th and 13th of July, also at Fuji International Speedway, and then of course we'll wrap up the season with Okayama in Ferrari Challenge Japan this year. A great weekend here at Autopolis with lots to reflect on, great racing, great action, and two very deserving race winners. Next up, we go from the mountains of Autopolis to the shadow of Mount Fuji for round 3 of the season. We hope you've enjoyed the action here in Ferrari Challenge Japan. Make sure you join us next time.